Hey there, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we are doing a first round NFL mock draft. Sheldon will be making the selections for today's video. So if you are new, hit that subscribe button because a lot of our mocks change from week to week. So you want to make sure you are here for the latest information. We're going to go ahead and jump into the number one pick, which is Jacksonville. Jacksonville has a big decision ahead for this franchise, and you opt to go with left tackle Evan Neal. Tell me why this is the route you opted to go for the Jags.
Well, Evan Neal's an athletic tackle, and he's someone that I think could be a build-around piece for this Jacksonville Jaguars offense, which I think they have a lot of room to grow yet on that offensive side of the football. Cam Robinson's headed toward free agency. Obviously, we'll see by draft time if he is back or not. But at this point, I think everything that the Jaguars should be focused on doing is building around Trevor Lawrence, keeping him upright in the pocket, because this year, when he was upright in the pocket, when he did have time, he showed a lot of really, really good things for that Jacksonville Jaguars team. I know a lot of people have been critical of him. Was touted as a generational prospect. You and I both believe that, Austin, coming in, and I still think he is that guy. I'm not hitting the panic button on Trevor Lawrence. In fact, I'm going to double down on it. I'm going to give him an offensive lineman here. I'm going to protect him off of his blind side. I'm going to play him at left tackle here, Evan Neal. And then from there, you're trying to find a wide receiver in free agency or in day 2 or 3 of the NFL draft that's going to be a number one guy for him, and you try and build around him. And I think that this is the best place for the Jacksonville Jaguars to start. Perhaps they'll look to trade down. Perhaps they'd look at some of those edges on pick 1. I think Jacksonville's a very intriguing team to have the first overall selection in this year's draft. Of course, we're not doing trade downs, though, in this mock draft. So at this point, I figured Evan Neal, he's the best pick. You put him next to Trevor Lawrence, and you start building up that offensive front.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that when you look at Jacksonville. They definitely need that franchise tackle. With Cam Robinson projected to make potentially around that $17 million a year mark, that price will be too steep for Jacksonville, even though they have a lot of money. I think they're ready to move on. They have Walker Little in the fold, potentially could kick to that right tackle, and you can have Evan Neal at the left tackle spot. I do like this selection for Jacksonville. Some other people might be thinking edge here. However, Evan Neal could be a huge plug-and-play guy for the Jags. Moving on to number 2, we have the Detroit Lions, critical selection in the Dan Campbell era. They have to make a big decision on which edge they want. I think that's the route they're going to be going. Is it going to be Kayvon Thibodeaux? Is it going to be Aiden Hutchinson? You have to go with Kayvon Thibodeaux in this one. Tell me why you took Thibodeaux over Hutchinson. Is there a big difference here?
There's not much of a big difference to me. I think the two of them are the top 2 edges in this class, and I don't think there is a ton separating them. Kayvon Thibodeaux, to me, though, has a little bit higher upside. I especially think that he's going to have a little bit more quickness off the edge, which I think is going to be huge. Setting up counter moves throughout an NFL game, being able to work the swim move, get back inside as well. I think he's going to set the edge a little bit better in the run game as well, in terms of being able to get out and contain guys, force them back inward. And for me, the Detroit Lions here, they just badly need to find someone who's going to be very, very productive. And that's what Kayvon Thibodeaux has been in his career at Oregon, whereas Aiden Hutchinson, his most recent year, Aiden Hutchinson had a great season, but Kayvon Thibodeaux, a little bit better track record, a little bit more longevity at being great at the collegiate level. And I think Detroit maybe opts that way because of some of those things.
Yeah, he is going to be absolutely huge and transformational for that Detroit Lion front 7. I love the pick there for the Lions. Moving on to number 3, we have the Houston Texans, and this is a more unconventional selection with Ikem Ekwonu, but the logic does make sense for the Texans. Kind of fill us in on why you think that Ikem Ekwonu is a good pick for this team.
When you consider where Houston is currently at with their team building, of course, Deshaun Watson, he's going to be on the trade block. He's a massive asset, perhaps the most valuable asset available via trade this offseason. I think that they're going to try and find a way to move him. And for Houston, you're not ready to compete right now. You've got to take a long-term approach to this. You've got to build this thing the right way, and that's by starting in the trenches. I think they would consider an edge here. A guy like Aiden Hutchinson would have made some sense for them as well. But just given where they're at, I think that they're going to want to protect their quarterback of the future, whether that's Davis Mills or not. I think we're going to get another trial year of Davis Mills this season. And for me, Ikem Ekwonu really good in the run game as well. When you look at what Houston struggled with offensively this year, it just didn't run the football all that well. And I think Ikem Ekwonu comes in, he becomes a real trendsetter. And a real key piece of what this offense is looking to be down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely need to build that offensive line. That's a key focus for this franchise. And we transition into number 4. We have your New York Jets, and the New York Jets fans, a lot of them think that they do not need an edge in this draft, But when you have a guy like Aiden Hutchinson fall to you at number 4, it's so hard to pass up this opportunity. Arguably could be the first overall player in this entire class. But it's great to see him here at 4. And if you're a Jets fan, are you mad at this pick?
Jets fans better not be mad at this pick. 3 letters for you, Jets fans. BPA, best player available. That's what Joe Douglas is going to look to do, especially 4th overall. And a lot of Jets fans love to say that we don't have a need at certain spots. We're picking 4th for a reason, guys. Okay, we're not a good team. We have a lot of needs. We're going to get Carl Lawson back. He had a devastating injury this past year. I think if we can get him back, put Aiden Hutchinson on the opposite edge from him, you have Quinnen Williams up the middle, and a good selection of rotational guys behind those 3, you have a solid defensive line there, which is what Robert Saleh really needs and wants. This is a perfect fit into what Robert Saleh is going to want to do with his defensive line. He's going to want to keep guys fresh. Having Carl Lawson healthy, adding Aiden Hutchinson, this is a dream come true for the New York Jets. Now, very unlikely that this happens, I feel, as well, because I feel like Aiden Hutchinson could be a top 3 pick. But if he's here, they have to take him. And at this point in the mock draft, he's just going to be the best option for the New York Jets.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that when you look at Aiden Hutchinson, the talent that he possesses, and where the New York Jets could improve. I think you do look to that defense. They want to get better on that side of the ball, especially with Robert Saleh. Really, that's what his teams are predicated on, playing great defense. And Aiden Hutchinson would be an absolute beast in that system. Moving on to number 5, we have the New York Giants, who are going through a transitional phase within their front office with the head coaching spot. A lot of changes here in New York. And you opt to go with Charles Cross, the great pass protecting offensive tackle. So we're seeing a little bit of a trend here. These offensive tackles are being valued highly by you in this mock draft. And you see that playing out in the actual NFL draft.
I do, yes, just because of what's available in this year's draft. And we have a whole bunch of teams in the top 10 that are tackle needy. Looking at Houston, they need a tackle. Looking at Jacksonville, they could use one. Carolina's one spot here behind the New York Giants. The Giants are picking 5 and 7, so you don't want to wait until 7 and risk your guy going to the Carolina Panthers in the middle there. You have to take Charles Cross here. I know that's 3 offensive tackles in the top 5, but based off where the talent is in this class, I think a lot of teams are going to be looking for offensive linemen. It's a very defensively strong class, and I think there's a lot of teams here that are going to take advantage of that between pick 7 and also pick 15. Just when you look at what's going to fall to them based on the talent here for the Giants, they need to find offensive line help. You talked about a GM change, head coach change. We don't exactly know what's going to be in place at the time we're recording this video, but what we do know is Daniel Jones needs help up front. He needs a little bit better pass protection. Andrew Thomas had a sneaky, quiet, good year this year for the New York Giants, but the rest of the offensive line did not. They need more help there. Charles Cross, like you mentioned, pass protector, that's his number 1 trait, and I think that's going to be perfect there in New York.
Really, really good job by the Giants here, getting that franchise building block along that offensive line. And now we look forward to number 6 in the draft. That's the Carolina Panthers. They took a huge swing at Sam Darnold, and that experiment did not pay off. We don't know if he could be the guy moving forward. However, in this mock draft, that is not the case. You have to go with Kenny Pickett. Why did you go Pickett instead of guys like Corral and Willis? And, you know, there's a lot of quarterbacks that could be QB1 here, but you opt to go with Pickett.
I think it's all about good old momentum. I think that Kenny Pickett has more momentum than those other 2 quarterbacks when it comes to where their draft stock is headed. I think Kenny Pickett's probably going to be the first quarterback off the board. When you look at the season he just put together for the Pittsburgh Panthers, now he's going to be playing football for the Carolina Panthers. I think the Panthers here are a team that would probably look to trade down. Remember, we're not doing trade downs in this first round mock draft here. But Kenny Pickett, he's going to come in, gained a lot of notoriety from his fake slide play, but he was in the middle of having a great season. I think he has the requisite arm talent. He's also mobile enough. And that's really where the NFL's at, where a lot of guys need to be able to move at that quarterback spot, but also need to have the arm talent to sling the football over the field. Kenny Pickett gives you a little bit of both.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett could be a really good fit for this Panthers offense. That they're going through some change as well. We're not exactly sure of the status of the QB room for this team. A lot of changes in Carolina still to go, but this is a huge one at that QB spot. Then we look forward to number 7. We have the New York Giants. You have Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa going here. Really smart player, a guy that can be another building block along that offensive line. I love what you've done with this team. And do you think Daniel Jones is the guy moving forward? You made 2 offensive line selections with your picks here. Do you see him being that guy moving forward?
I'm glad you brought that question to me here, Austin, because that's really the question that's going to be asked throughout these GM interviews, throughout these head coach interviews. And that's going to be the question that gets answered next season. If they go out, draft 2 offensive linemen, you look at the pieces they put around him with Kenny Golladay, Saquon Barkley. You've also got a slew of wide receivers. You spent a top 5 pick in the past on Andrew Thomas, now a top 5 pick this year on Charles Cross, 7th overall on a center, Tyler Linderbaum. If Daniel Jones can't succeed with that, he's not going to succeed. That will answer the question here, which is why I'm going with a center. This is a very safe pick and a very good pick for the New York Giants. Tyler Linderbaum, easily the best center in this class. I don't think that's at all up for discussion. Iowa's been really great at creating and really developing offensive line prospects. You think about a guy like Tristan Wirfs, who's been so great for the Buccaneers in his early career up to this point. And I think they got another one here out of Iowa going into New York. He's going to be a real staple for that offensive line. Daniel Jones has had trouble turning the ball over in his first few years in the NFL. You got to give him better protection, and then you finally have the answer whether he's the guy or not.
Yeah, really good selection there for the New York Giants. And now we look at number 8, and number 8 is the Atlanta Falcons. And I love what you've done here. You go ahead and select Kyle Hamilton, potentially not the biggest team need for the Atlanta Falcons. However, you're getting a great talent at number 8, potentially a top 4 guy in terms of overall talent in the entire class from what he brings. Rangy safety, 6'4" frame. I love this for the Falcons for that reason. Fill me in a little more why you made this pick.
To me, Kyle Hamilton is not only one of the best talents in this class, I think he is the best talent in this class. But with where I'm at, with all the draft evaluation, to me, he's the best overall player. Now, he's not going to get valued that way because he's a safety. And of course, edges get a lot more value. Quarterbacks get more valued, offensive tackles as well. There's that positional value that definitely comes into factor when it comes to the NFL draft. But for me, Kyle Hamilton, his instincts, his range, his size, his speed, his playmaking ability in the back, he does everything for a defense. You can play him at D safety. You can play him up in the box. He could be a sub linebacker for you. He can do everything you want him to do and more on a football field. This guy is going to be incredible. Atlanta takes advantage of it here. Last year, they got Kyle Pitts, who's arguably one of the best tight end prospects ever coming out. Now they take advantage of it here at safety with a guy who's going to be better than Jamal Adams. He's going to be a transcendent safety. This kid's phenomenal. If you guys haven't watched him, make sure you do, because he's going to be a beast for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, once again, great value for the Atlanta Falcons. They're kind of going against the grain in terms of positional value. They were, teams were concerned last year about selecting a tight end potentially, and now people are very wary of selecting safeties after Jamal Adams, even though he had a productive career with the Jets and then, tapered off a little bit with the Seahawks. It's still worth selecting safeties at the top end of the draft when they are this talented like Kyle Hamilton. At number 9, we have the Denver Broncos, and you have David Ojabo going. He was the unsung hero for this Michigan Wolverine team. You have to look at it from the standpoint of Aiden Hutchinson got a lot of the media attention, a lot of the hype. David Ojabo was quietly very, very productive and a high-end draft prospect. Why did you have him go to the Broncos?
This is a great opportunity here for Denver to get a guy who I think could turn into a premier pass rusher in the NFL. Wins with speed often. He's going to have really good bend off the edge. Probably not going to be able to turn his hands into power as often as a guy like Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau, which is why those are the first 2 edges off the board here. And right now it's a little tough too, because Denver, they do not have their head coach currently. So you don't exactly know which scheme they're going to be in at the point we're making this video. But David Ojabo, his speed off the edge alone is going to be an asset for whichever scheme you put him in. I think he's going to be really, really good, really, really productive. And you put him across from Bradley Chubb. They traded Von Miller this year. You need to find an edge for the future. Guys like Stephen Weatherly, just not going to get it done. I like him as a rotational pass rusher, but David Ojabo, he's the real deal here. Grab him 9th overall in Denver, and you fix your pass rush after half a season, essentially.
Yeah, this Denver team is getting scarier and scarier, especially with the assets they've started to accumulate. And you look at Patrick Surtain, really, really good prospect from last year, and a huge building block on that defense. Now you go ahead and add Ojabo to that. Things are looking bright in Denver. At pick number 10, we have the New York Jets once again. You opt to go with an interior offensive lineman in Kenyon Green, and this really fits Joe Douglas's bill of the big mobile guys along that offensive line. He had been quoted saying, a guy that big shouldn't move that quick when he drafted Mekhi Becton. Same case here with Kenyon Green.
right? He's going to be one of the few GMs in the NFL that's not afraid to take a guard near the top 10. Last year, he did it with Elijah Vera-Tucker, even traded up with the Minnesota Vikings to make sure he got his guy AVT there. And I think he's going to continue trying to build that offensive line. You look at the Jets' offensive line currently, right guard is the biggest question mark. Kenyon Green, of course, played mostly left guard for Texas A&M, but I could see him easily transitioning over to right guard. And all of a sudden, when you have pull plays, you put him as the pulling guard behind Elijah Vera-Tucker, Mekhi Becton on the left. Oh my goodness. This offensive line could become one of the best in the NFL within 3 years of Joe Douglas taking over and running these New York Jets drafts. He's done a phenomenal job so far finding offensive line talent. I think that they need to spend a little bit more time and assets on the defense, but when you have a guy here like Kenyon Green who fits Joe Douglas's draft history and it really would fill a key need for this team moving forward, I had to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, this is a really good selection in terms of what they're trying to build along that offensive line. Schematically, this is perfect for them. They're very, very nimble and guys that can really get after it, get downfield in a hurry. Love this for the Jets. At number 11, now this is when we transition into the Washington football team, a team that is seemingly a quarterback away from being super, super competitive. Now you throw in Matt Corral into that situation. It gets interesting because do you start him or do you start Taylor Heinicke next year? That's a question that they have to be asking themselves later on. Why do you like Corral to Washington?
I think when you're looking at Washington here, the obvious pick has to be quarterback, just based off of what this team should be defensively. Look at the assets that they have. They've also done a good job building up that offense with guys like Terry McLaurin. You also signed Curtis Samuel. They've got a good collection of weapons as well offensively. And the GM's going to look at himself and say, we are a quarterback away. And they're going to make a selection here with a guy like Matt Corral, who I do have questions what his ultimate ceiling could be in the NFL, but I do think he has a very high floor when you consider his processing speed. He's really improved in his time at Ole Miss, limiting turnovers. He's also a guy who's pretty mobile himself, but also has good acceleration on the football when he throws it with a lot of zip, makes good decisions, can throw the ball outside the numbers, can work it across the middle as well. And I think he's someone who could be an ultimately perfect fit with Curtis Samuel, getting him involved in some of those gadget type of plays. And I think Washington needs a little bit more dynamism into their offense. He can bring that.
Yeah, Matt Corral can definitely add a different element to this offense, has a higher ceiling than Taylor Heinicke as well. Good selection, and you don't really have to rush him in year one. Now we move on to pick number 12. We have the Minnesota Vikings, and we have a huge fall for Derek Stingley. He's been picked in the top 5 in a lot of our mock drafts. Why do you have him falling all the way to 12?
There are some injury concerns about Derek Stingley, and I think I'm making a point of emphasis here with having him go 12th overall because this is his ultimate floor. I see no way that he possibly falls past the Minnesota Vikings on draft night. I do not see it. He will not be available by pick 13. To me, I think this is a mistake if this happens on NFL draft night. If a bunch of teams pass on him, that is a mistake. I know a lot of our viewers are concerned about his injuries. Oh no. Okay, guys get injured. Joe Burrow didn't have injury history before he tore his ACL in the NFL. Chase Young, oh no, he tore his ACL in the NFL. Good thing the injury history didn't point to that. Guys miss time in the NFL all the time, whether they have injury history in college or not. Okay, a guy like Derek Stingley, you have to draft based off of talent. The Minnesota Vikings will not let this one slide past them. They need cornerback. He's the best cornerback in this year's class when you look at his athleticism, his man-to-man cover skills. He's going to be a sticky cornerback in the NFL. LSU produces some really, really good athletes. You look at guys like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Now, part of Justin Jefferson's 2019 National Championship team does stick here with the Minnesota Vikings out of LSU. I think this is a phenomenal pickup for the Vikings and the absolute floor for where he could go in the NFL draft.
This would be a home run selection for the Vikings if they were able to land him at 12. You have to think in the actual NFL draft, if he starts sliding, there's going to be teams trying to, go up and get this guy because he is a tremendous talent. Now looking at number 13, we have the Cleveland Browns, and this has been a popular selection amongst our mock drafts over the last couple of weeks. Garrett Wilson from Ohio State goes to the Cleveland Browns. The Browns get their number 1 receiver here, and this is absolutely huge for Baker Mayfield.
It is, and this is really built around Baker Mayfield. The Cleveland Browns and Browns fans do not hit the panic button on Baker Mayfield. He was playing through a slew of injuries this year, ones that required surgery that he was trying to toughen out. Had he been healthy, I don't think his season would have played out the way that it did. You also look at that backfield. They had injuries in the backfield the whole year, and that's really the identity of this Browns team. But part of the reason why that's the identity is they don't have a true number one wide receiver. Odell Beckham Jr. just didn't thrive in Cleveland. Jarvis Landry, I think, is a good 1B type receiver. And I think Garrett Wilson could be that 1A guy for them. He can run a full route tree, good over the top as well. He's going to be able to make contested catches, and he gives Baker Mayfield the true number one receiver that he needs.
Yeah, and the Cleveland Browns in a really good opportunity to kind of get their picking at the wide receiver spot at number 13. We are soon going to see a run on them, probably later on in this mock draft. Looking at number 14, we have the Baltimore Ravens. And this was a pick last week as well we had made, but I think it's going to become more and more popular. You have Ahmad Gardner going. Some Raven fans very well think that they do not need a corner at this spot. There's other areas of concern, but tell me why you would have the Ravens go Ahmad Gardner.
I loved this selection last week, Austin, when I saw it on your mock draft, Ahmad Gardner to the Baltimore Ravens, and I think it is one that they have to strongly consider at the very least. He had a good showing against Alabama when he was on the biggest stage he's faced throughout his college career, and he's had a great college career himself. When you look at his overall production, the tape matches it as well. He's going to be a great man-to-man cover guy. And for the Baltimore Ravens fans saying, we don't need a cornerback, I get you're injured. I get Marlon Humphrey was out. I also get that Marcus Peters missed a ton of time. But you gave up the most passing yards in the NFL. Out of every team, all 32 teams, you ranked dead last in passing yards allowed. So you probably want to look at the cornerback position a little bit. Okay, you've got other guys who are going to step up. I think Odafe Oweh is going to have a nice sophomore season and hopefully get to the quarterback a little bit more, hopefully to speed up the opposing QBs a bit. But you need more cornerback help, especially when we're not sure what Marcus Peters is going to look like after a serious injury. We're not sure what Marlon Humphrey is going to look like with his recovery. Ahmad Gardner, arguably the best cornerback in this class. You get him 14th overall. This is great value at a really premium position.
Yeah, you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they could be super scary in that secondary next year once they get healthy. And if they make this pick, watch out in that AFC North. It's going to be hard to throw the football with that potential trio. At number 15, we have the Philadelphia Eagles, a slew of draft picks in this class. And you look at George Karlaftis from Purdue. This Eagles team is going to be getting a makeover, and it all starts at number 15 with Karlaftis.
Yeah, I think Karlaftis here, a pretty good pickup for Philadelphia. He's going to come in. I think he's going to fill the Derek Barnett role. I'm not sure what his ceiling's ultimately going to be in the NFL. For me, though, he's someone who can win with power, and he's going to be productive in the run game, which are key aspects to what Philadelphia does. They like to limit what goes on at the line of scrimmage. They really like to win in the trenches, and George Karlaftis is going to be a good pickup for that. I don't think he's going to necessarily have some of the athletic upside of guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, even Aiden Hutchinson or David Ojabo, who all were top 10 picks for me. But 15th overall here, you get a really good edge still at this point. And if you're Philadelphia, you have 2 more picks coming. They're in a really, really good spot.
Yeah, great position to be in. They can get super creative in what they want to do with their picks. George Karlaftis, great point to start with at 15. And now we look ahead at 16. You have Devin Lloyd going to the Philadelphia Eagles. And once again, you are building up that defense. You address one level. Now you get to that second level of that defense. It's really scary considering how talented Devin Lloyd is. You could argue he is the best linebacker in the class. Him and Nakobe Dean are very, very close in that regard. This could be scary hours for that NFC East.
Oh, it definitely could be. And I think Devin Lloyd is going to be a pick that some Eagles fans are going to say, whoa, Howie Roseman would never make that selection. Well, Howie Roseman's never had 3 first-round picks either. When you have that, it really does embolden you to make, moves based off of who the best available guys are, especially when you were already a playoff team. They need to find someone who can help them in the middle. And I think Devin Lloyd's going to be phenomenal at this. He's going to be really good in pass coverage. I also think he's going to be pretty solid in the run as well. You added George Karlaftis already, who's going to help you in that regard. This Eagles team needs a little bit more help against the pass. So, and for me, Devin Lloyd's going to be the best available option here. I opted for him over Nakobe Dean because of his skills in the passing game. And I think he's going to really translate well to the NFL level.
Yeah, love this for the Philadelphia Eagles. Get a very talented linebacker at number 16. Looking ahead to number 17, we have the LA Chargers, and DeMarvin Leal falls right into their lap. This is exactly what the Chargers need. It's been tossed around the idea of Jordan Davis at this spot, but DeMarvin Leal, a little more versatility, better pass rusher, a guy that can be more of a 3-down conventional lineman, is here at 17, and you definitely need that in the interior if you are the Chargers.
The game against the Las Vegas Raiders in Week 18 is pretty much the telltale sign of what happened with the Chargers season. They need to get better up the middle on that defense. Kenneth Murray, very questionable at the middle linebacker spot. Jerry Tillery, just clearly not the answer at D tackle. DeMarvin Leal, he's going to be the guy. He's someone who was looked at as a top 10 pick at the start of the year. Slid a little bit in this mock draft, 217 to the Chargers, but I think he's going to be a really, really good fit into Brandon Staley's defense that really likes athleticism and strength. He brings both into that middle spot. Like you said, he is a versatile defensive lineman, Austin. And then you also look days 2 for the LA Chargers and day 3. They're going to look for another speed guy off the edge as well. Someone similar to what Leonard Floyd was for the Rams back when Brandon Staley was still coaching there as a D coordinator. I think they need a little bit more speed off the edge, but you got to start in the middle for me.
Yeah, you definitely have to. And with tremendous value, with a guy like DeMarvin Leal still sitting here, this is a no-brainer pick to me at 17. At number 18, this is when it gets good. Now you have the New Orleans Saints that are in a weird kind of transition, just missed the postseason, but they have a tremendous and underrated playmaker here at this position. You have to consider him, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara to be a terrific trio for Jameis Winston when he comes back.
Oh, most definitely. Treylon Burks, I'm really high on this guy. His ability to catch the ball outside the numbers, he can take you deep if you want him to, but he's really good after the catch. If you get him the ball on short breaking routes or even bubble screens, wide receiver screens, finding ways to get him the ball does take a lot of pressure off of Jameis Winston, who's going to be coming back from an injury. You're also going to probably be losing Teron Armstead this offseason. He's due for a big contract in free agency, and I just don't see a way that the Saints are going to be able to keep him with their current cap situation themselves. So they're going to have to find ways to get the ball out a little bit quicker. And Treylon Burks, he's going to make a really productive offensive weapon for a team who's trying to offload the ball rapidly.
Now, this is absolutely scary if Sean Payton gets his hands on a guy like Treylon Burks. At number 19, we move on to the Philadelphia Eagles once again. And you are not shying away from the defensive side of the ball. That is clear. You have checked the box on all 3 levels of that defense. Tell me why you opted to go with a third defender.
I opted to go a third defender. When you look at the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I know they struggled to move the ball, but if you really want this Eagles team to become super competitive, especially in division, you're going to have to deal with the offenses of the Dallas Cowboys. You're also going to have to deal with the New York Giants, who doubled down on offensive line here. And then the Washington football team, they're no slouches either. You need to have a strong defense to compete in the NFC East, and I think they're going to prioritize that here. I know a lot of Eagles fans are going to be saying, well, we want a wide receiver. You got picks in round 2. You're going to try and find a wide receiver on day 2. There's still going to be a ton of productive guys out there for you. At this point, though, you got to go with what the board's given you. Kaiir Elam, someone who is arguably going to be a top 10 pick in this NFL draft, slid down to 19 here. Some of the other cornerbacks have gained a little bit of traction on him, but I think he's a phenomenal pickup. You put him opposite Darius Slay, who had a really good season himself. This Eagles defense is fully fleshed out now. You've got a ton of talent, probably have to find a safety at some point yet with Anthony Harris headed toward free agency, but this Eagles team going to be set up really, really well for the future, especially defensively.
I love what you've done with these picks. You really address some key areas of need for this Eagles team. Love Kaiir Elam at number 19. And now looking ahead to number 20, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now there's some key areas of need for this team. You look at that quarterback spot, and you also look offensive line. You opted to go with Daniel Falele from Minnesota, 6'9", 400-pound, absolute mauler. Tell me why you opted to go with him here.
And this here is a prime example of why you guys should be subscribed, because I think that this is a very fluid process throughout this. Right now I'm projecting that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers next season. His loss to the San Francisco 49ers, I think, was his final game with the Green Bay Packers. And I'm going out on a limb here and saying he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. So they need to get better on the offensive line. And there's no better place to start than a massive offensive lineman. He stands about 6'9", nearly 400 pounds. He's Australian born. He's got a little bit of Samoan blood in him. And he's going to be someone who can really help them run the football as well, which I think is going to be a key element of building a better offense there in Pittsburgh. If you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers or another quarterback who can really fill in at that position, you need to find ways to get Najee Harris going, though. He's too talented of a running back to have as little production in the run game as he did this past year. Their offensive line is abysmal. They need to find someone who can play for them and really set the edge in the run game. And for me, that's Daniel Falele.
Falele, huge pickup, literally, for this team. Love this for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Looking ahead to number 21. If you look at the New England Patriots, what they are lacking is a dynamic playmaker on the outside. But you address that with this pick in Jameson Williams, an absolute burner. We're not going to see him until, probably midway through next year with that injury, just considering it just happened. But why do you still go with them knowing that information?
Well, first of all, we know Nick Saban and Bill Belichick are really good friends. So Nick Saban's going to be giving Bill Belichick all the inside information on Jameson Williams, his rehab, and everything that he needs to know about him. But additionally, Jameson Williams is just a really great player. And when the New England Patriots have a chance to add one of those guys, they just generally do it. They find a guy who can fit what they need. And right now it's a wide receiver 1, and that's what he's going to be. He has breakaway speed. He has that second gear. He can run away from guys at the NFL level. And I think this is really going to be something that helps Mac Jones become the next level of quarterback that he wants to be. Someone who's going to rack up more yards, be a little bit more than a game manager like he was his rookie year. Jameson Williams, you pair him there in New England. Of course, the two did not play together. Jameson Williams was at Ohio State while Mac Jones was busy winning a national title for Bama. But at this point, you look at Jameson Williams, he's going to be a phenomenal fit into what this team needs. They need an outside guy who can get his and also can do some stuff after the catch. And he's, the perfect blend of both there for New England.
This is exactly what this team needs, a guy that can really be a little more dynamic on that outside, and he really presents that for this team. And like you said, aiding the development of Mac Jones is absolutely huge. So go ahead and get him a weapon here at 21. Looking ahead at number 22, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Really, really exciting season, especially with all the turmoil. But there are definitely some key areas of need for this team. With Mike Mayock out, it's going to be a changing of the guard at the GM spot. You have to go with Chris Olave, the big-time playmaker from Ohio State. Sometimes got, really overshadowed by Garrett Wilson's production this year, but Chris Olave in his own right is a very, very, very talented receiver.
He really is, and he's someone who I think can work the deeper parts of the field. We saw a lot of that when he was playing with Justin Fields, of course, in his junior season. But now in his senior season, didn't take the step forward that I think a lot of us would have liked to see, but I still think he is a first-round level guy. And when you consider what he could be next to Hunter Renfrow, someone who's really good working some of those in-breaking and out-breaking routes, you need someone who can stretch the field specifically down the seam. For me, that's what Chris Olave is going to do. And for Las Vegas Raiders, they've been badly searching for a wide receiver there for quite some time. You think about when they went back to bring in Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams in one offseason, of course, Henry Ruggs as well. They got it wrong with all of those moves. I think this is the opposite here. Chris Olave is going to be a really good pickup for this Raiders team.
Yeah, they definitely right the wrongs of their last couple of first-round selections and get a guy like Chris Olave, going to be insanely productive for this team. And looking at number 23, we have the Arizona Cardinals, and we've been talking a lot about the Arizona Cardinals and their future, but specifically in that corner room, that's a big area of concern for both of us. You go ahead and address it with Andrew Booth Jr.
Right, and I could really, rationalize this pick just by saying the names of the wide receivers that they have to face twice a year. There, when you have guys like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, you also have to deal with the Triple Crown winner this year, Cooper Kupp. You also have Robert Woods when he's healthy. Odell Beckham Jr. perhaps is back next year with the Rams. That division has so much talent at the wide receiver spot. You need to have guys who can match up with them. Andrew Booth Jr., I like his size. I like his physicality. He's going to be someone who's able to put the press on. I think that would really help them on the outside. And then when you look at the strength of this team, it's their edge rush play right now. So try and get a little bit better coverage and allow Chandler Jones, if he's back next year, and J.J. Watt to get after the quarterback a little bit more.
Yeah, it's really tough if you are the Arizona Cardinals to not look at that corner in round one. That's definitely got to be the focal point heading into this year's draft. At number 24, we have the Dallas Cowboys. And this is an interesting selection considering they just came off of a Micah Parsons pick that was highly scrutinized by a lot of people considering the linebacking talent they already had on the roster, but it really panned out for this team. I don't think this is going to be any different here at 24 with the level of production that Nakobe Dean can bring and athleticism alongside of Micah Parsons. It's hard to argue with a pick like this, even though there might be some people that disagree here.
One thing I think is clear about Jerry Jones, he likes talent and he likes athleticism, and you're getting that here with Nakobe Dean. He's shown that with some of his recent drafts, guys like CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. Now you come in and get Nakobe Dean, and it's all about grabbing the best player available. Dallas needs a little bit more help in their defense. Anthony Brown did have an interception in the playoffs. I think they're going to look at a cornerback at some point, probably in day 2 here, but Nakobe Dean is just too good to pass up on. This especially allows you to use Micah Parsons even more as a Swiss Army knife. You can really line him up at that edge spot. You can play him at linebacker. You can play him all over the place. And Nakobe Dean, a little bit of the same. He's going to be a thumper in the run game and someone who can actually get all over the football field. You're adding more speed and athleticism into the middle of that defense. It's going to be a nightmare for other teams. Nakobe is a phenomenal pickup here, not only based off of value, but I think based off what he's going to allow Micah Parsons to do every single down.
Yeah, he's an absolute heat-seeking missile, and putting him alongside a Micah Parsons long-term, really scary, and that defense continues to get better. Great selection for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of overall talent. At number 25, we have the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills coming off of a very, very disheartening playoff loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. They have to look forward to the draft. They have a very, very talented and excellent receiver in Stephon Diggs. They have some questions about their running game long-term. Are they going to look at a running back? But, I think it is critical to look at that wide receiver 2 spot. You have to go with the huge red zone threat, 6'5", Drake London from USC. Why did you have Buffalo go this way?
Well, I love Drake London not only as a red zone threat, but as a volume guy when it comes to the outside. Gabriel Davis, in his career through 2 seasons, 125 catches, 13 touchdowns. So he's already a pretty good red zone threat himself in those 2 seasons to have that many touchdowns. Of course, had 4 touchdowns tonight against the Kansas City Chiefs, which is absolutely remarkable. Great game from him. But when you look at the Bills, you have a spot opening up. Emmanuel Sanders in his contract year. Cole Beasley's aging. I think if you find a true volume guy, someone who can really work the comeback routes, like you said, Austin, that size is going to be very beneficial on the outside. It empowers Stephon Diggs to go deep, work down the middle part and the deep part of the field. And it also allows Gabriel Davis to be what he is going to be best at, and that's a third wide receiver. When you have 2 guys ahead of him, you have a really dangerous trio there. Drake London, you put him into Buffalo, you give him to Josh Allen, and you say, good luck stopping us.
Yeah, with that frame, it's going to be very, very tough for a guy like Josh Allen to overshoot him. 6'5", great catch radius, an awesome target and potential weapon for this Bills offense. Looking at number 26, we have the Tennessee Titans. Very disappointing loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. You have to go with Trent McDuffie, the cornerback from Washington. They had addressed that last year at that corner spot with Caleb Farley. You double down on it. You go corner once again in that first round.
I do here, just because Caleb Farley did come in with some injury concerns and then actually did get injured during his rookie season. When you look at Tennessee as well, they're one of the best rush defenses in the entire NFL at this point. I think they're a team that could probably look at a wide receiver at this spot as well. But given what's gone off the board here, I prefer getting one of the better cornerbacks in this entire class. He's someone who's very polished and he's ready to play meaningful downs in the NFL. And the Titans, they're ready to play meaningful downs as well. I think this is a perfect marriage here of a guy who's ready to come in, be competitive, and be a key cornerback for a team that is really ready to compete and try and make some noise in the AFC.
Yeah, Trent McDuffie could be a humongous weapon in that secondary. And I say that looking at what he's done in college, he's been absolutely terrific in coverage. The lowest passer rating against amongst all corners in that Pac-12. Terrific in terms of ball skills. Love this pick for the Tennessee Titans. Looking ahead to number 27, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and there's going to be a lot of transitions in this offseason. They have to retool, figure out how they can compete for a championship once again. You have to go with Jordan Davis. Slides a little bit in this mock draft. Is there some concerns about him being a potential 3-down lineman, or what's the reason for his fall here?
Yeah, I think my biggest concern here is I just don't see him being a guy that's going to play 3 consecutive downs super often. We've talked a lot about that off camera, Austin, about some of his stamina concerns and his endurance throughout the course of a game. But when he's on the field, he's an absolute game wrecker. I think you put him next to Vita Vea, and now you have a blend of power, size, and athleticism. I think that's really the missing part here that the Buccaneers don't have up the middle right now, is a little bit more athleticism. I think he can put a little bit more pressure on as an interior pass rusher and a pocket mover, and I think there is a lot of value to that. When you look at Tampa Bay, there's a few different ways they could go. Wide receiver with Chris Godwin headed toward free agency. Also with his injury, I think that's a real need. You also look at offensive line. They could look at a tackle to replace Donovan Smith. There's a few different ways they could go. It's hard to pin down exactly what they're going to do at this point, especially with their season just ending the day we're recording this. But Jordan Davis, he's too good of an asset here to pass up on.
Yeah, tremendous interior guy, a guy that is elite against the run and could be a developmental pass rusher. Like you had mentioned, pocket pusher, maybe not going to see that sack production overall, but definitely is going to generate some pressures as well and can really collapse a pocket. At number 28, we have the Green Bay Packers. And this is the first time that Trey McBride has entered this first round. There's a lot to love about him. He was over 1,000 yards this year at Colorado State, a true unsung hero for this team and this program, a guy that's flying up some boards. So tell me why at number 28 you go Trey McBride.
He's an extremely complete tight end. In my opinion, the best tight end in this class, and I don't even think it's particularly close. A guy like Jalen Weidermeyer maybe draws a little bit of eyes out of Texas A&M. But Trey McBride here for me, he's extremely productive in his career at Colorado State, especially this past season. But he's also someone who can finish plays in the run game. And I think those are two key elements that the Packers are going to be looking for. He's going to be able to get out and set the edge and function as a sixth offensive lineman occasionally with his ability to run block. And I think there's a lot of value, especially if the Packers do have to adjust to Jordan Love. You move to a transition to a young quarterback. You want to have a security blanket type tight end. You want to have someone who can also help you run the football. And he does both here for them. I think that wide receiver is a potential need, but tight end here, you get the best in the class and someone who I think really helps in both facets of football offensively.
Trey McBride has been outstanding this year. I'd love to see the Packers go ahead and make a pick like this, just considering with, you know, the roster being in flux. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like heading into next season. At number 29, this is a really good spot for the Cincinnati Bengals because they go ahead and select Nicholas Pettit-Freer from Ohio State. Really, really good pass protector, one of the highest graded guys this past season. And you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, they give up so many sacks. It's insane. During the regular season, they were number one in terms of sacks allowed. And then we just saw that playoff game against Tennessee. Tennessee tied the playoff record for sacks in a game. Joe Burrow was under constant duress. Really, it's miraculous that they won that game considering how much Tennessee really got after Joe Burrow.
And that's the crazy thing. They're a good team and they're giving up a ton of sacks. You just have to address that, find a way to protect Joe Burrow a little bit more. And I think then all of a sudden you become one of the best offenses in the entire NFL with the weapons that they have, the talent that they have. Joe Burrow, I think he's the perfect guy to steer that ship there in Cincinnati. You just need to protect him a little bit more. Nicholas Pettit-Freer, to me, one of the best pass blockers in the class. I know a lot of people are going to point to his game against Aiden Hutchinson where he really struggled. Aiden Hutchinson's a top 5 pick in this class. Guys are going to struggle against top 5 picks. It's going to happen. But I think Nicholas Pettit-Freer, you have to look past just that one game, look at the overall film, the overall tape, and suggest that he's going to be a really good pass protector in the NFL. And that's exactly what Cincinnati needs here, 29th overall.
Yeah, I love that for the Bengals. Have to address that tackle spot with 29. Looking ahead at number 30, we have the Miami Dolphins. And with the Miami Dolphins, it's once again a transitional period. You know, no more Brian Flores. And you have to go with offense with the selection. They just took a wide receiver in the first round last year with Jalen Waddle. Now you go ahead and select a wide receiver once again in Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, I could see them looking at offensive line. A guy like Trevor Penning here could make some sense, or there's a few other options as well. But for me, Jahan Dotson, I think they got to find ways to work the outside of the football field a little bit more. Tua Tagovailoa famously does not do that very much. But for me, given who's under contract, of course, they're going to be losing Will Fuller to free agency this offseason. I think looking for another outside wide receiver who can win contested catches and be someone who's going to be a physical outside guy for them does make a lot of sense, especially if you do believe that Tua Tagovailoa is the guy. You need to see progression in this area, throwing outside the numbers. And Jahan Dotson is one of the best players in the class at addressing that need.
Yeah, huge pickup for the Miami Dolphins here at number 30. Getting that outside receiver is critical, especially when you have a guy like Jalen Waddle really working the middle. And I think overall this team has to continue to develop Tua. Getting a wide receiver like Jahan Dotson is critical in doing so. At number 31, we look at the Detroit Lions. You have them going with Roger McCreary from Auburn. And looking at the Lions, you know, they address the front seven right away. Now they go ahead and address that corner spot, which they've tried to do with a couple of their last picks in the, you know, over the last few years. Hasn't really necessarily worked out, to the best. But looking at Roger McCreary, why do you like him to the Lions?
I like McCreary here based off some of his size and also what he's going to be able to bring as a man cover corner. You look at what they've already got there with some of their pieces. Jeff Okudah, I think he's going to make a move to safety within the next couple of years. And for me, the Lions, they're going to look to find another guy who can be an outside cornerback for them. I like Amani Oruwariye. I also like Efe Melifonwu for them as well. You put him into the mix here, you've got 3 reliable cornerbacks, especially if Okudah moves to safety. I think their secondary is looking better. You've already addressed defensive line. as well with an edge here. You have pick 34 to come back on as well. Maybe look for a quarterback. I know some Lions fans aren't in favor of that, but you could also look at maybe a wide receiver at that point, or a linebacker as well, maybe an actual true safety in there too. A guy like Jaquan Brisker could make some sense. There's some options here for Detroit. I think going here at the cornerback spot, one of the most coveted positions in the draft, makes the most sense.
A really good pick for the Lions. They have to address that corner spot at some point in time. And now finally, we are going to conclude with the Kansas City Chiefs. You have them going with Jordan Battle. Had a terrific season at Alabama this year. One of the best safeties in all of college football, if not the second best, only behind Kyle Hamilton. Really, really great year. And you look at Kansas City, they're going to be missing Tyrann Mathieu in his contract season. Very likely won't be back next year. But why do you like them taking a safety over some of the other key areas of need for this team?
For me and Steve Spagnuolo's defense, you need good over-the-top play. I think Gabriel Davis really highlighted everything you need to see with this Kansas City Chiefs team. They struggle covering the middle of the field. They struggle over the top, especially when they want to send pressure. A guy who can keep plays alive like Josh Allen against them really causes a lot of problems. They need a little bit more help over the top. I think outside cornerback could make some sense as well. But this is only the second safety I've had go in this first round. So you're getting a better value here going with a safety over a cornerback that's already been a little depleted at this point of the draft. Jordan Battle, a really good pickup now for the Kansas City Chiefs. They need to find one, especially with Tyrann Mathieu likely out after this season.
Yeah, very good pickup for them. Once again, good value selection here at 32. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. We do a mock draft every single week, so make sure you are subscribed. That way you get all the latest content. We appreciate you stopping by. Hit that like button, and we will catch you guys in our next video.